What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, the most impossible miracle is unfolding in the most unlikely place on Earth? While you're reading this, something absolutely extraordinary is happening at the Dead Sea. That's making scientists scratch their heads and spiritual leaders proclaim that we're witnessing the fulfillment of ancient prophecies written thousands of years ago. For decades, we've been told that the Dead Sea is exactly that: dead, lifeless, a place where nothing can survive. But that narrative is being completely shattered before our eyes. Here's what mainstream media isn't telling you. Fresh water is literally bubbling up from the ground. Plants are growing where only salt crystals should exist. And fish, actual living fish, are swimming in waters that should kill them instantly. This isn't some mystical story or religious fantasy. This is documented, photographed, scientifically observed reality that's happening right now. And the most shocking part, the ancient prophet Ezekiel described this exact scenario in vivid detail over 2,500 years ago, down to the specific location and the types of life that would appear. You might be wondering why this matters to you personally. And here's the truth that will change everything. If God can bring life to the most dead place on planet Earth, what does that say about his power to transform the seemingly impossible areas of your own life? The same force that's causing springs to burst forth from barren ground is available to bring breakthrough to your stagnant situations, hope to your discouraged heart, and miraculous change to circumstances that feel as lifeless as the Dead Sea itself. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about what's possible. Picture this. You're standing before the most hostile place to life on planet Earth, a location where even the most resistant bacteria cannot survive. The Dead Sea, with its salt concentration 10 times higher than any ocean, has always been considered the ultimate symbol of sterility and death. But something extraordinary began happening in this seemingly impossible scenario. Something that defies all known scientific logic. Suddenly, small springs of crystalline water started sprouting from the rocky ground, creating true oases amid the saline desert. It's as if nature itself decided to rewrite the rules of biology before our very eyes. The first signs of this surprising transformation appeared so subtly that many scientists initially dismissed them as temporary anomalies. Small pools of fresh water began forming in areas where only salt crystals should exist, creating an impressive visual contrast. Then, the impossible happened. Small green plants began emerging from these waters, followed by living fish swimming freely in an environment that should be lethal to any form of life. It's as if someone had planted seeds of hope in the heart of absolute desolation. This phenomenon reminds us that sometimes the greatest miracles happen exactly in the places where we least expect to find them. Now, here's where things get really interesting. We're not talking about some mystical tale or ancient legend that can't be verified. Real scientists, geologists, and even tourists with their smartphones have been documenting these incredible changes with crystal clear photographic evidence. You can literally see the cracks in the ground where fresh water is bubbling up from underground sources, creating these almost surreal scenes that look like something from a science fiction movie. The images show water so pure and clear that it seems to glow against the harsh, salt-encrusted landscape that surrounds it. It's like having front-row seats to watch nature perform its most impossible magic trick. And everyone's got their cameras ready to capture the show. The scientific community has been scrambling to explain what they're witnessing. And their current theory involves sinkholes created by the dropping water levels of the Dead Sea. As the water recedes, it creates these underground cavities that eventually tap into freshwater aquifers deep beneath the surface. Think of it like punching holes in a balloon. The pressure finds a way to escape, and in this case, it's bringing life-giving water to the surface. But here's what's fascinating. While scientists can explain the mechanism, they absolutely cannot control or predict when and where these springs will appear next. It's like trying to forecast lightning strikes. You understand the science, but you can't master the timing. What makes this even more compelling is that we're living in an age where everything gets documented instantly. Every tourist visiting the area becomes a potential witness. Every smartphone becomes a recording device for history in the making. The evidence isn't buried in some dusty research paper that nobody reads. It's right there on social media, in travel blogs, in news reports from major outlets around the world. You can literally Google Dead Sea Springs right now and see dozens of photos and videos from different angles and time periods. This transparency means that what we're witnessing isn't just a scientific curiosity. It's a phenomenon that's unfolding in real time, with real proof, and it's raising questions that go far beyond what traditional science can answer. Here's where this story takes a turn that will absolutely blow your mind. What's happening at the Dead Sea isn't just a random scientific phenomenon. It's the literal fulfillment of ancient prophecies that were written thousands of years ago. The prophet Ezekiel, in chapter 47 of his book, described a vision where a river of living waters would flow from the temple and transform the salty, dead waters into fresh, life-giving streams teeming with fish. He specifically mentioned that wherever this river flows, everything will live, and fishermen will stand along its shores casting their nets. When you read these ancient words and then look at the photographs of fish swimming in the Dead Sea, today, the connection is so precise, it's almost impossible to dismiss as coincidence. But Ezekiel wasn't the only one who saw this coming. It's like the ancient prophets were all getting glimpses of the same incredible future event. The prophet Zechariah wrote about living waters flowing from Jerusalem, dividing into eastern and western streams, bringing life to the most desolate places on earth. Isaiah spoke of streams bursting forth in the desert, and waters gushing in the wilderness, transforming the parched ground into pools of water. Even the Psalms describe God turning the desert into pools of water and dry ground into flowing springs. It's as if these ancient writers were all pointing to the same moment in history, describing the same miraculous transformation from different angles and perspectives. Now, let's talk about what this really means for you and me on a personal level, because this isn't just some fascinating news story happening halfway around the world. When spiritual leaders look at what's unfolding at the Dead Sea, they see it as a direct sign that we're living in extraordinary times. Times when ancient promises are being fulfilled right before our eyes. They're connecting these miraculous transformations to the nearness of Jesus' return, suggesting that if God is literally bringing life to the most hopeless place on earth, then we're witnessing the beginning of a divine restoration that will eventually touch every corner of creation. It's like watching the opening act of the greatest show in human history, and realizing that everything we've been told about the end times might be happening sooner than we ever imagined. But here's the deeply personal part that hits home for every single person reading this. If God can breathe life into the Dead Sea, what does that say about his power to transform the dead areas of your own life? Think about those relationships that seem beyond repair, those dreams that have been buried under years of disappointment, those parts of your heart that feel as barren and lifeless as the Dead Sea itself. Spiritual teachers are using this phenomenon to remind us that no situation is too hopeless for divine intervention, no person too far gone for redemption, no circumstance too dire for a miraculous turnaround. Just as those underground springs found a way to break through solid rock and salt deposits, God's love and power can break through the hardest, most resistant areas of human experience. Here's what makes this whole situation absolutely mad. God didn't choose some beautiful, pristine location to demonstrate his power. He didn't pick the Amazon rainforest, the Swiss Alps, or some already thriving ecosystem to show off his creative abilities. No, he deliberately chose the Dead Sea, the most condemned, hopeless, and literally dead place on the entire planet. This wasn't a random selection or a convenient location. It was a strategic, intentional choice, designed to make a point that no one could miss. When you think about it, it's like choosing the most broken down, abandoned building in the worst neighborhood to showcase the world's most incredible renovation project. God is essentially saying, if I can bring life here, I can bring life anywhere. The spiritual significance of this choice runs incredibly deep, and it reveals something profound about the nature of divine intervention. Throughout history, God has consistently chosen the most unlikely candidates and impossible situations to display his glory. Think about how he chose Moses with his speech impediment to be his spokesman, David the shepherd boy to defeat Goliath, or Mary, a young unmarried girl, to birth the savior of the world. The Dead Sea fits perfectly into this pattern of divine irony, where God takes the most hopeless scenario and transforms it into a testimony of his unlimited power. It's like he's showing us that his specialty isn't working with already situations, but rather taking the most damaged, rejected, and forsaken places and making them shine brighter than anything else. Think about it. If God chose the most hopeless place on earth to demonstrate his power, what does that tell you about the hopeless areas in your own life? That dead relationship, that stagnant career, that dream that's been buried for years. Maybe they're not as finished as you thought. Maybe you're not as stuck as you believe. Maybe the very areas where you've given up are exactly where God is preparing to do his most spectacular work. But here's the thing. Miracles require faith, and faith requires action. You can't just admire what's happening at the Dead Sea from a distance. You need to apply this revelation to your own circumstances. So let me ask you directly, What Dead Sea area of your life needs fresh springs of hope to bubble up? What impossible situation are you ready to start believing can change? What dream are you willing to resurrect from the grave of your past? Disappointments. The same God who's bringing fish to swim in salt water is waiting to bring life to every area where you've accepted defeat. Don't let this moment pass by without taking action. Your breakthrough might be one prayer, one decision, one leap of faith away from manifesting in your reality. If this message has stirred something deep inside you, then you need to stay connected to what's coming next. Subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because we're living in the most extraordinary times in human history. And you don't want to miss a single update about what God is doing in our world. These signs and wonders are just the beginning. There's so much more revelation coming that will equip you to walk in the miraculous power that's available to every believer. Your transformation journey starts